Hello, and welcome everyone to another Base Live event. I am Liz Prue, VP of Marketing here at Base, and I am joined by our guest of honor, Natalie Turner. What's up, Natalie?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. For those of you that haven't met Natalie before, she is the executive assistant to our Base co-founder and CEO, Paige McPheely. She is also someone personally I couldn't live without. She's fantastic. She's amazing. She is the moment. And I'm very excited for today's topic, scaling growth while working remote.
Yay. High praise, by the way. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to give everyone just a couple minutes as there is a slight lag on Facebook. So we'll give you guys a minute to catch up. In the meantime, if you want to go in and sign into your Base account or sign up for Base, it only takes a quick second and it's free. You can do that. I'll drop it in the chat, app.basehq.com. So that way you can follow along and ask questions. This session today, Natalie will be, so to preface, Natalie has been 100% remote since starting with Base. And well, actually, I'll just let you do your intro. I'll let you do your shebang and tell you about your experience with Base.
Oh, hi. Okay, sure. So as Liz was saying, ever since I started with Base, started as EA, I have been remote. I don't know, some of you know this story, but I had never been an EA before I started with Paige, and I've been in some related roles. I've done event planning and things like that, but being an EA was new for me. And so coming to be an EA of a company all about EAs was a little intimidating, but I have Base to thank, honestly, for giving me the guardrails that I needed to learn, along with, of course, Paige being wonderful. But it was really when I started doing digests that I started to feel like, okay, I know how to structure my day. I know how to help Paige have the most context, feel the most prepared, feel like she and I are communicating and on the same page. It built a lot of trust early on. And then once I got the hang of it, it really just sort of allowed me to take off into both like creativity and strategy, because the logistics were handled. The logistics I had a system for. And so the nitty-gritty day-to-day stuff became more systematized, and that sort of freed me up to be able to really be a strategic partner to Paige, a thought partner to Paige, and that is how you all have come to know me now. So
awesome, yeah. Thank you. I put you on the spot a little bit there,
yeah,
but
no, I'll just monologue. That's fine.
If I'm going to intro you, I might as well let you do it, or talk about your own experience. Yeah, so Natalie's, like she said, she's been 100% remote since starting with Base. And I think she's being a little bit humble because she has led so many strategic initiatives and and it's all been remote, which has been fantastic. You know, she's helped standardize processes for our seed round, campaigns aligned to our company's revenue goals. And in particular, she has really aligned herself to Paige's OKRs, objectives, and key results, which is crucial. And I know that's something that you all ask about a ton. And for those of you in the 30-day challenge, you are definitely familiar with how Natalie does that and have most likely implemented that yourself with you and the executive or executives you support. So I'm really excited today for Natalie to walk through the different digest cadences that she does have, see how they can work for you. And this is meant to be interactive. If you're new to Base Live, particularly our Base Live demos, we try to make this as engaging as possible. So I'll be running the chat so that way Natalie can share her screen and walk through some things. But if there's a question that you have, we can answer. We can save it for Q&A at the end or answer as we're moving along. But just know that we are monitoring the chat, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can.
Awesome. Sounds good. I'm ready to dive in when you are.
All righty, let's do it.
So let's see. Let me work on sharing my screen here.
It should be that middle button underneath. There we go.
Okay, got it. Can you see it?
Look how cute that is.
Wonderful.
Love it.
All right, here we go. So I'm just going to talk for a second while you see this digest page. So basically, I send a couple of different digests in a regular cadence. So for me, a big thing has been a daily digest. I send this at the end of every day, sort of wrapping up everything that I have aggregated for the day, and I'll go into that more, and then preparing Paige for her following day. And so with all of my digests, I have templates. So I'm just going to run through my daily digest template real quick here. And so we have these sort of in our like inspiration, but I create my own and use my own, and I highly recommend doing that. So as you'll see, it's going to populate. It kind of has all the usual stuff that I use. So at first, I'm going to, honestly, usually I leave in the like see below for all the usual things, unless I have something in particular that I am like celebrating her for. Like yesterday, for example, you all hopefully were there at Paige's live stream with Amy Sherman, which was incredible. And so I wrote like, you know, congratulations on an awesome stream, other stuff. And then the quick FYI is anything from that day that like she needs to know, but I didn't need to bother her with. And then I will also let her know sort of when her day starts tomorrow in terms of meetings. And the reason why I started doing that is because of what I sort of call like the middle of the night factor. When she wakes up in the middle of the night and she doesn't know like, do I have time to work out in the morning? Are my meetings internal? Are they external? What are they? I can just give her a really quick thing to like lock into, even if she doesn't get into the rest of her digest. Just like your day starts at 10 a.m. It's an external meeting. So like do with that what you will. Then Paige and I utilize Digest for inbox management as well. I know we all have our own systems for inbox management, but for me, Paige and I use an email manager called Front, and Front really gives Base superpowers, in my opinion, because with Front you can, and this is not sponsored, but you can link to individual emails. And so what I'll do is give Paige a really quick rundown of what she can find in her inbox, so that when she goes in there, she doesn't feel overwhelmed. She knows what needs to be handled, what I already handled. So I'll draft a lot of her correspondence, and if I want her to review it before I send it, that'll go under drafts. And then any other action that she needs to take is going to go here. So if she needs to respond to so-and-so, if she needs to review financials, whatever it is, that's all going to go here. In her FYI, I will include things that I did on her behalf that it will be beneficial for her to know. Like, for example, I responded to so-and-so about this. We're waiting on a response. But so she doesn't have to see that in her inbox. It's not cluttering up her inbox. This is also where I will include any like newsletters or things like that she might want to look at, but we also don't want that cluttering up her inbox. So she has a link to it, but it's archived. It's out of sight if she doesn't feel like dealing with it or she doesn't have the brain space for it. But it's also here for her if she needs it. Next, I will move into questions. So with Decision Stream, what I'm doing throughout my day, in addition to kind of aggregating email over here, I'm also aggregating questions that I have, whether they're sort of the basic logistical scheduling things. Hey, do you want to meet with this person outside of your normal meeting time? Because I know this is like a high priority meeting, and I'll usually include like in the attachments of Decision Stream, like a screenshot of her calendar so that she doesn't even have to go look at her calendar to see what I'm talking about. She can just see it right there. Yeah, sometimes it's scheduling stuff. Sometimes I will include like at the end of the day, because that's when she gets this, like, hey, any follow-ups from your external meetings today that we haven't already discussed? Does somebody need a thank you? Do we need to make sure we follow up with this person in 2 weeks, whatever it is? So she just has like a multi-selected list where she can be like, we need this follow-up, that follow-up, this follow-up. And that means that when she's moving through her day, she knows that she doesn't have to worry about remembering after her meeting to tell me about follow-up, because she knows I'm going to ask her later. And then also, if you are in the 30-day challenge, you also know that I use this to ask her about her OKRs or her goals, her priorities, most important things, whatever you want to call them. On Thursdays, I send her a decision stream and she knows it's coming. But a lot of times I'll also put in here for questions, like just so she has a tiny bit of context, like quick yes or no question, or these are your weekly questions, so that she knows. And so those questions are like, looking backward at her week. So what progress did you make on your OKRs this week? Or what were your wins for the week? And this helps me both celebrate her, because I love that being a part of my role, is being able to really cheer her on and not just do the things for her. And then additionally, looking forward at the next week, what are your priorities for next week? And then specifically the question that I started asking that I think actually was sort of the impetus for the 30-day challenge was, what would feel like winning? Because priorities, goals, those things are often long stretching. But like, how would you know next week that you made progress on that? Like, what would a win be? So for example, if we are trying to, Liz mentioned that I helped standardize our seed round for our fundraising. So if we're trying to do fundraising, but we haven't finalized our round yet, but a win for her would be, I had a really great meeting with this person and they committed to such and that would be a win, even though it's technically not checking off that part of her OKRs. So yeah, any questions that I have throughout the day, aggregating those, including them here. Also, I will say, decision stream is a really good test for me. Sometimes I'll be creating a decision stream and I'll be typing out all the answers and it will occur to me, I could just answer this, or like I could just use my best educated guess. And that's sort of what I mean when I say that starting to use Digest, including decision stream, making sure that everything I'm including in here is actually really pertinent for Paige. She skims in general, but also just making sure I'm not clogging up her life with more stuff. So both in my questions and in what I'm including in her digest, making sure that it is the most accurate, the most updated, and that I'm not waiting on her for things that I could actually take care of. So this has been what I call it guardrails. This has been that for me. And then status updates. So with this, this is the previous version of Digest. But when I am using 2.0, I will pull tasks in here. I love that feature. But so that she knows high level, like don't go in and say, I scheduled this, I talked to this person. Really just, again, stuff she needs to know. And this in progress and this future, again, is really helpful for that middle of the night factor that I was mentioning, so that she doesn't have to wake up and be like, what's the status on that? She knows. It's always right here. And this list it tends to be, I would say in each category, like 3 or less things. So again, high level, just so that she knows what's going on. And then looking ahead, I will include her calendar for the next day in a daily digest. You can see here her real calendar, but it's pretty innocuous. So she's got a check-in with me, her meeting with Jeremy, department leads, some other external meetings here. So I'll include that. And when I'm including that, I don't do this for internal meetings so much because unless like the time has changed or something like that, but I'll also include, like, for example, let's say, actually, this is actually true. So this meeting with me was supposed to be today, but we're doing it Monday instead. And so I would just pop in here, letting her know that the time changed, and if it's relevant to her, why. If not, I'll leave that out. If she is meeting with an investor, for example, I will pull that in, and then I will also include any prep that she needs for that. So who is this person? What's the context? Who introduced us? Or did they reach out cold? Anything that she needs to know to feel fully prepared for this meeting, any documents they've sent us ahead of time, anything like that, that all goes here in her digest. It's also in a prep block on her calendar, but that way when she gets this at the end of the day, she can do a quick rundown and know, like, even if she doesn't read all of it, know that I have what I need for tomorrow. And so that is the daily digest. I send that Monday through Thursday. On Fridays, I send my weekly overview. And again, I have a template for this. It's pretty similar. As you can see here, the celebration, you crushed your goals and priorities this week. I will give her higher level stuff here. It's usually my goal to try and get Paige to inbox 0 by Friday, if not all the time. And so sometimes I will delete this section entirely, hopefully. Questions, I try not to ask her high level questions on a Friday, just because we're all trying to wrap up the week. So sometimes that also gets cleared out, depending. If I can save it for Monday, I will. Again, status updates. And then for this looking ahead, key meetings and notes, here I'm not going to include any recurring meetings, anything that's like not of huge consequence. I'm just sort of trying to give her a rundown of big external meetings next week, like team events, stuff that she needs to know high level. And then I will include some notes here, basically of like, this week is really heavy on demos, or this week you're traveling, and so we're consolidating your meetings to here. Just sort of again, a high level overview of her week coming. And so she gets that on Fridays. And then this was inspired by my dear colleague, Debbie, if you all are familiar with her. She supports Jeremy. You know that she's wonderful. She created this monthly forecast and sent it to Jeremy and copied me on it one time and totally knocked my socks off and sent it to Paige. And she was like, whoa. So this is a fun thing to, again, what I love about BASE is that you can continually, like I was saying at the beginning, once you get the hang of it, really start to get creative and up level with it such that you're creating that wow factor for your executive. So this is going to look like even higher level, but because I feel like we can all get so lost in the day-to-day, knowing what's coming for the next month can feel really helpful. I know that I personally set intentions at the beginning of every month and kind of know what my month is going to look like, whether it's, I mean, it doesn't look like this now, but whether I'm traveling a lot, or I've got big family events or things like that. Just sort of having that at the beginning of the month is super helpful. And so you can see in this template here, I will list out this month, you really need to, for example, like have an awesome board meeting, make sure we finalize the details for this event, and maybe one other thing. Like, it's really high level so she knows, and that's usually going to be tied to her OKRs. Again, you're going to hear us sort of be a broken record with that, but as we are establishing ourselves as assistants, as strategic partners, being directly tied to, hey, I'm pushing you along, or I'm pointing you like an arrow, as Paige likes to say, toward what you have said you want and need to do this week, month, quarter, year, whether that's you being accountable to people above you, if your executive reports to someone, or in my case, Paige has a board that she's accountable to. And so highlighting those things that she is going to be doing this month is tied to OKRs there. And then also major events. Those could be meetings, they could be personal. Paige and I's relationship, while I wouldn't consider myself doing a lot of things that are like a personal assistant, I do manage like her personal email and things like that too. So that kind of is blended together for us. But if your relationship with your executive only sort of stays within the professional, then again, these events will just be what's on their work calendar. And so then next, so that we have a good pulse on what's going on with the team, people being out, people's birthdays, people's work anniversaries, just it's like a quick little list run down there. And then, key events and items. This is going to be even higher level than what I was talking about in the weekly overview, like really only including those meetings that are kind of going to be of consequence to what are we trying to accomplish this month. So those three things, so the daily, the weekly, and the monthly, are my typical cadence. And then something that I have just started and honestly don't even have a super amazing template yet because I'm still iterating on it, but I will share it with you. You're getting an exclusive sneak peek here. I've actually started putting our one-on-one agendas in Digest. We have tried a bunch of different ways to use to do our agenda, and we've tried Google Docs, we've tried Docket, which works really well for a lot of our internal meetings, but for us, we found that we just sort of need something a little more dynamic. And so once Digest 2.0, Dynamic Digest, as we lovingly call it here, came out, I started using this. Let me actually, let's see here. I'm going to pull this up and pray there's nothing super sensitive on it. This is the most recent one that I sent her. So again, this is, like I said, brand new. Trying something new here. Let me know what you think. Previewing our one-on-one agenda. Again, tomorrow you don't have meetings until our one-on-one at 1 p.m. I did run down her inbox. And then this is really the agenda part that I wanted to share with you. So we in our one-on-one, I know some of you were asking, like, how do we become more strategic? For me, that has been logistics are handled in the digest. And that means that our one-on-one time gets to be talking strategy, gets to be how are we moving forward. So again, looking back, and this is when I incorporated those decision stream questions that I mentioned, the what progress did you make this week in the looking back, and then any loose ends, anything I need to make sure that I'm picking up strategically versus those sort of tactical end of the day questions, which were like, what needs follow-up here? This is sort of like big picture. What do we need to make sure gets wrapped up from this week? Looking forward, again, I kind of talked about that, and ensuring that she feels totally prepared for the following week. Anything internal or culture related. Here at Base, we have, that's a typo, but we have core value Fridays, which are awesome. That's something we do as a team. I think Paige has something on her LinkedIn about that, if you're curious about that. But wanting to discuss that with her, and then sort of the status on some things we're managing internally that would require more conversation, not via Slack, not via decision stream, like actually we need to talk about it. And so, yeah, you'll also see, and I mean, Paige and my relationship is, I'm super grateful for it. We both get to be ourselves, which is super cool. And so you'll hear, like I mentioned having those notes with questions, and I said, just make sure you just answer this before our one-on-one. Don't do it tonight if you're toast. That's what I said to her. So yeah, those are the 4 different ways that I usually use Digest, and I really challenged myself to try to get even more creative with it. I know that we have templates for like quarterly reviews. Obviously, not a ton of people are traveling right now, but if you have a big event or a travel itinerary, using Base for that and including those in your cadences for what your executive can expect. Yeah, that's, I just went off. So
No,
I know Liz has been fielding questions, so I'm excited to answer.
yes. So, and it's been great. You've answered a lot of the comments as you've walked through this. What I'd love to bring up is that in the 30-day challenge, particularly, I think, Cindy, you asked on YouTube, how do you become more strategic and not tactical? And while Natalie showed how she does that, I know a lot of times y'all ask, how do I, if I'm sending a decision stream, how do I introduce that new cadence to my executive without them being like, oh, another tool? And I'll let Natalie walk. She has a very eloquent way of walking through that. But additionally, into the 30-day challenge, she helped develop some template language. So that way you have somewhere to start with. Sometimes it's hard just coming up with that copy for how you introduce that to your executive, particularly while working remote, because you can't just turn your head and say, hey, by the way, I'm going to start doing this. It's hard to write all that out and have it be short and sweet and simple and really get through to your executive.
Yeah. So, and I just want to clarify, the question is like, how are we introducing Decision Stream as a new thing for our executives? Is that?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good example, because I know sometimes that comes up with our community.
Yeah, so I think the most helpful thing is, while Base is a godsend to us as assistants, we are, when we're communicating with our executive about it, it's always, hey, I thought this was is going to really impact our ability to whatever it is that they want to do. So for example, if you've never sent a digest before and you want to introduce that concept to your executive, you can let them know, hey, I'm trying something new. Again, Liz, we have actual copy for this that I'm not making up live. But just, hey, I'm trying something new. I want to work on being more strategic and supporting you better, even better, because we're all amazing, but supporting you even better. This is what you can expect. And I'll be checking in to see how it's going. And that way you're just opening up the dialogue of, hey, I'm doing this because I think it's going to improve your life. Even though, like I said, for me, it helps me know that I have all of my boxes checked. And even I would say, when I send this at the end of the day, it's not like my day is done after I send my digest, but it helps me know, like, okay, everything that absolutely needs to be managed today or needs to be addressed today has been addressed, because it's here and it's done. So it almost allows me to, especially in a remote environment, it sort of gives me that permission to feel like, okay, when I do wrap up my final things, I can kind of shut down and stop working for the day. Because I know that, especially if we're all working from home, it's easy to just keep working and keep going and keep going. So this is a nice marker. Or if your executive prefers their digest first thing in the morning, same thing, you schedule it at the end of the day. And then like, okay, things are set. But yeah, basically it's just setting those expectations of, here's why I'm doing this. I'm trying it because I think it's going to really help us. And I'll be checking in to see how it's going. And then same thing with decision stream. I would just say, hey, you know how sometimes we have that back and forth that can feel sort of frustrating. And you can word that obviously however you would want to word it. You can say that what I'm going to be doing is collecting questions for you so that I'm not asking you one-off questions. And then I will send those to you at a time where it's convenient for you to answer them. And the beautiful thing about Decision Stream, and this is helping you be even more strategic really, but it's because you're sort of you can, and I encourage you to use it this way, sort of pre-assuming what you think their answer might be. You're coming to them with solutions. You're saying, hey, here's the thing that I haven't been able to solve on my own. Here's what I think maybe some possible answers are. And that way it saves them the time and brain space of having to come up with how they want to solve that problem. You have just literally saved them having to think, which is part of being strategic, really, in my opinion. So yeah, it's just, again, explaining, here's why I'm doing it. Here's what I hope to accomplish with it. I'm going to check in and see how it's going, and we can course correct if it's not working.
And again, there's all of this. Obviously, you'll have this video too, guys, but Natalie also made a couple just like 1 to 2 minute videos walking through this that are available through the 30-day challenge as well that are super helpful. So make sure you guys check that out. I'd love to dive a little bit into, and this is a little bit more on the emotional side of working from home. And you just have some incredible tips and resources that can be used as resources for us that you do and do well working from home. So would you mind sharing some of those with our audience?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, something that I've been trying to implement more and more, but has really sort of saved me in this kind of work from home, everything feel like every day is bleeding into the next, especially right now. And that is time blocking. So, without changing locations, you're not moving from your desk to a conference room to your boss's office, wherever. You're not going to lunch. Like, hopefully you get up and eat lunch. Please go eat lunch, please. But, blocking time for specific tasks or projects, including time for breaks, has been really important. I also find this with email, for example. If I don't block time, like, okay, I'm going to be in Paige's inbox from this time to this time, and then I'm going to set it down and go accomplish some of the other things I need to do and then come back to it, because email will never end. And I could just perpetually spend my day in email being reactive. And so it's that time blocking to both make sure you're really getting done what you need to get done, and also to break up the monotony of this dystopian hellscape we find ourselves in. So time blocking for sure. Amy actually alluded to this yesterday, but I will reiterate, knowing when to jump on a call when you're working remotely. So if you're slacking, if you're emailing back and forth, and something just isn't clicking, in a normal work environment, you might just get up and walk over to that person's desk and kind of do a quick check-in to sort of clarify what's going on. In this case, just either, I don't pick up the phone. I know that's what Amy mentioned yesterday, but, just shoot them a Zoom link, or hit the call button on Slack, whatever you need to do to save both of you time and the back and forth, because so much can be lost in text communication. So yeah, knowing when to pick up the phone. And then the last thing I'll really say is, in a remote environment, and especially as an assistant, fighting for your one-on-one time with your executive. In my opinion, this FaceTime that you have with them is even more critical. And that is, I'll reiterate again, why it's so important to make sure that the kind of tactical nitty-gritty scheduling details, all of that can be covered in your digest, such that you're not going back and forth about scheduling. You're not going back and forth about, well, how do I respond to this person? In your one-on-one, you're actually using that time for what you really need it for. Or my personal preference is using it to really position yourself as a thought partner, someone that is trusted by your executive to help them make decisions, to help them prioritize, that sort of thing. So yeah, fighting for that time, and not bumping yourself off of their calendar because they're trying to fit in a million meetings. Like, advocate for yourself is what I would say.
And do you build out the agenda ahead of time so that way there's like a precedent set of, hey, here's what we're discussing, so that way you can truly own that time?
For sure. Like I said, I have that sort of basic outline that I sort of shared. Again, that's a new thing that I've been doing it in Digest, but it used to live elsewhere. So I'll build that out ahead of time and be adding to that all week. Again, especially with the new components of Digest, there are just a million ways that you can sort of like supercharge that agenda. Again, like I said, I include my questions there in advance so that I have those answers and am referring to those in our one-on-one. But yeah, not coming and just being like, I'm not sure. Like, there are a million things that you could talk about in your one-on-one. Like, I feel like as assistants, we have no shortage of things to talk about. But being able to make sure that you're using that time in a way that both feels most supportive to your executive, because ultimately that is why we're here, but also making sure you're getting what you need, making sure you're getting the support you need. And I'll also say, using that one-on-one as like a regular container for any tough conversations that might need to happen, so that when you're having, whether that's a discussion about like comp, or if it's a discussion about, and I have had these discussions with Paige, like, hey, the state of the world is really getting to me this week, and I haven't been on my game as much. And I wanted to both own that and acknowledge it, and then say, how can we support both like the whole team and me, and also, hey, how are you doing? Because things are kind of hard. So it's building in that that space for like, nothing's off limits here, but you're not going to talk about those things. You're not going to talk about the tougher stuff if you're just trying to make sure you get all your scheduling questions answered, you know?
Exactly. That's fantastic advice. And I'll include in follow-up too, guys. We actually did, this was a few months into the pandemic, which seems like 5 years ago now, but a webinar with Natalie on tough conversations and how to have those with your executive. And I think everything that was discussed is 100% still relevant today. So I'll be sure to share that with you guys too, because that one's a really good one.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's really tough right now. And it's hard to get motivated to try new tools or new things. But I will say that I think Natalie's workflow in particular and how she leverages Base to do so, the goal is to make your lives easier, to make things more streamlined so you can feel more organized throughout the day, so you can feel more on top of things. So if there are, I know there's a little bit of a lag on Facebook, but if there are any questions that you guys have, we're running up at the 45-minute mark here. But if you have any other questions, if you need us to jump back into the tool quickly, we can do that as well. Please drop those questions in the comments. Additionally, we are going to try and do more of these weekly. I think we've been getting more requests to do so. So that way you guys have some one-on-one time for live demos. If there is a specific feature you would like for us to focus on, or a specific workflow or situation, drop that in the comments, or reply to the recap email I'll send out today, or just email me, liz@basehq.com. We're happy to take any and all suggestions. See if there's any other questions that pop up in the chat.
I was also going to mention, I know that today I was showing sort of my like blank templates, but there are tons of examples. And if you also, if you sign up for the 30-day challenge, you'll get like an example, like a filled out for you, so you can kind of really see how you want to own that and make that your own.
Responding to Cindy. Go crush it, girl. Crush that one-on-one.
Get it.
I love it. Well, if there aren't any other questions, Natalie, thank you so much for walking through this. I think it is so incredibly helpful. And for everybody watching, we leave all of this up on YouTube and under the announcements tab here if you're watching on Facebook. So that way you have access to them, but I will send a direct link out after this as well. Natalie, any parting thoughts on this lovely, happy Friday?
Go enjoy your weekend, friends. Those right. I think we could all use a weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. And we will see you next week. Have a great weekend.